And a welcome here from the ACC tournament. I am on site, on location, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're in the broadcast room right on the other side of this wall, and just around the corner here, you'll find yourself on the court here at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina. It is my honor and my privilege to be here with you inside of the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios. We'll have guests throughout the week, and Paul Brazeau is here with me today, Senior Vice President for ACC Men's Basketball. And Paul, how are you?
Good, Dan. Great to be with you.
Happy to be with you as well. So, Paul, first and foremost, we're right inside of the tournament here for ACC men's basketball in Charlotte at the Spectrum Center. We've gotten to see a few games. The late game had to go to overtime, so we got to see that. So I'd love to get your thoughts kind of going into this, because I know that the tournament itself is your baby in a sense.
In a sense. We've got a great staff. We got our entire ACC office gets involved in putting on the tournament. It's very important, obviously, to the conference and mostly to our student athletes. We try to make it as seamless as possible for teams, coaches, everybody, so that they know what to expect from year to year, whether we're here in Charlotte or a different venue. And you try to do that and really put on a great event for them, because for some folks, they're only going to play in a couple, 2, 3 ACC tournaments, and you want it to be very special, and our staff really does a terrific job. So I appreciate them.
I've been at the ACC tournament in Greensboro, in Charlotte, in Washington, D.C., in Brooklyn, or New York. For you, when you look at where this tournament has been, what are the logistics of kind of dealing with the ins and outs of that, knowing that, yes, there's been a lot of years in certain places, but there was also the years of jumping where I think There was a 4-year span where we were kind of bouncing around.
Mm-hmm. You try to make the operations, the basketball part, seamless. You try to make that, whether it's the venue in Brooklyn or the venue in Washington or Charlotte or Greensboro, wherever we might be, you try to make that all as close as you can to being the same. It's the other parts that are a little bit different, the building layout, the access ways for the teams to the court, and all that kind of stuff. And you have to get each venue is a little bit different, all very, very good. So many things stay the same, but you have some unique challenges at each place.
And like you said, there are the foundational pieces that stay the same, but looking at the venues and kind of how you go through it and how you do, they're all set in different places, and they have different traffic patterns,
Exactly.
Parking garages, things around them and whatnot. So how do you navigate that aspect of it, of making sure the media has what they need, the fans have what they need, that the players and coaches have a clear path?
Sure, and that's a little bit of the challenge of moving and going to different places. We'll take Brooklyn, for instance. It's got a different entrance. It's got a different entrance way. The buses go down this elevator. It takes longer to get to Brooklyn from the respective hotels. So with each of our schools, DOBOs, other sports admin leads, we work with them, try to prepare them as best you can. Like, what are our challenges going to be? Not hurdles, but different challenges that you have in different venues, different cities, traffic patterns, like you said. But once you get to the arena, we want that experience to be pretty smooth, and that folks know it from year to year.
And Charlotte is obviously a place where the ACC's dug roots, moving the headquarters from Greensboro to Charlotte. What has the city of Charlotte done for the ACC?
Well, it's helped modernize us in terms of perceptions. This is a great venue. Greensboro is a great venue, but it's really been it's a nice. It's a different downtown here in Charlotte, where hotels are walkable. So for our fans, I think it's been a great experience. There's restaurants and nightlife and things to do outside the games that is easy to get to. It's we're at close proximity. New York's different, Washington's different, and Greensboro is a little bit different. But all, again, every one of those places that we just spent, those 4, and those are the places we've been mostly since 2015. Have all done a really great job of welcoming the ACC and hosting our team. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, and I can speak to, like I said, all of those different areas that we've talked about in different places, different cities you've been in. I will say this about Greensboro: when you leave at night and they let you rent a Mustang, it's nice to have that open road. Here in Charlotte, it's not too bad, but I feel like, being a New Yorker and being born and raised in the state of New York, I can honestly say that even though Charlotte traffic has gotten worse, I feel like it still moves. Like in New York, you stop. In Charlotte, you kind of stop. So I would say there's still an ease of traffic. It's not as frustrating, but I mean, with the city, kind of the point I'm making, while the city has constantly grown, and we've seen the airport just grow itself and modernize itself. We've seen the city grow. I mean, I've spent at least 14 years covering the ACC, and I've been back and forth to Charlotte and this area. So I can definitely say that I feel the change. I see the change. How have you navigated the change?
Yeah, it's a growing area, and like any growing city, sometimes your infrastructure needs to catch up to the population growth, and that's happened to a certain extent here.
Yeah.
But I worked in Manhattan for a dozen years earlier, so there's traffic in Manhattan and there's traffic in Charlotte, and they're not the same. So it's been good.
For you, when you're finding the right partner to put with the logo of the ACC, T. Rowe Price for the ACC tournament, what's it like working with T. Rowe?
They've been a great sponsor, great partners. They care about student athletes. They care about basketball, college basketball. Their level of commitment is very important to running this tournament, but their support of the ACC overall it's because it's about the game, it's about winning, but we also have to pay for all that comes along with it to make it great.
And when you're doing that, like you said, I mean, there's all of these expenses that nobody sees. People walk in, they want to see basketball, they want to see great games, but they don't know all of the background. And in running a business, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you have no idea what's underneath the water, how much of that iceberg is there. So when we're planning the ACC tournament, when you're putting this together, bring me into some of those things that are beneath the surface that people don't think about.
Well, you nailed it. Devil's in the details, they say, right? And we've got a great group. T.C. Gammons on my staff is our lead with this, and our coach Taylor and Els and everybody who works from our group have a lot of experience in running events. So Donald Moore, for instance, he oversees a football championship game. Brandon Neff oversees wrestling and softball and other sports. So all of our sports folks together help each other on these events because they're heavy lifts. It doesn't just you don't just put the keys in the door and open up and say come on in. Yeah. So really a great group of folks. Spend a lot of time on it. Well more than half their days are focused on our championships because once we start the regular season, there's operation pieces to it. But it's again that's on campus, and the campus folks run a lot of the operations. So and they've been doing it for years. So we've got good synergies among everybody. But when it comes to tournaments and championships, whether it's softball or baseball or football, obviously the two basketballs, you were at women's basketball recently. There's a lot goes into it. So. But we've got people well before us and people after we're gone who've laid out groundwork for us, given us a map and direction, and now you just tweak it as you go along.
Yeah, and when you look at the fact that, I mean, we've talked about different cities, but the ACC has now kind of focused like, hey, we're in Charlotte. This is our headquarters. We're going to lock into Charlotte here and spend multiple years here. Why was that important for you? Because there was a run where we were bouncing. We were going D.C., New York, and North Carolina.
Yeah, it became, there's a lot of pieces to this, to why we're in North Carolina for 5 years. A little bit was the Economic Development Commission helped us with our move to Charlotte, and in return, we were, made the commitment to them that we would play a number of tournaments in the North Carolina area over the upcoming years, and we're going back to Greensboro next year, then Charlotte and Greensboro.
Yeah.
So we're in a 5-year run from last year Charlotte through 29 in Charlotte again of being in North Carolina, and then we'll evaluate. It's been great in North Carolina. They've embraced the tournament. The people here care about it, but so does Washington, so did Brooklyn, and I'm sure if we went to places that are not maybe in our traditional thought, we've got schools from Boston to Miami, to the Bay Area. So I think there's a lot to look at, but you want to make it. It's got to be financially doable as well, and like a Charlotte, it's drivable for 8 of our schools. It's just that's a help. Now they don't all drive, but fan bases and students, you can drive here rather easily.
And I mean, like you said, you mentioned Boston, you mentioned Miami. I know there used to be, time in Atlanta, Georgia, which has a lot of direct flights and whatnot. When you plan outside of 2029, do you think of something like I just experienced Miami with the Capital One Orange Bowl and the College Football Playoff National Championship? It's hard to sell above a place that can say, hey, all these cruise ships and here's the ocean and this is our backdrop, this is our doormat, so to speak, to welcome you in. So I mean, are you looking ahead and saying, yes, we have this with Charlotte and Greensboro, but are you already planning beyond 2029 saying, let's make some history, let's think about some other things?
Yeah, we are beginning that now. We're beginning that process now because you want to go about 2 or 3 years out, 4 years maybe, because you got to do hotels, you got to have ground transportation, you got to have a lot of things in place. So we're starting those processes now, and you got to see where it's feasible, who wants you, where it can work together. Local organizing committees are very helpful to us. Building availability, we take it's a week, from when we move in to when we move out. So you're displacing in a pro environment like the Hornets here. They're displaced for a week for our tournament, and really on the front end and back end maybe a little bit, and they're on a West Coast trip. So you got to give the arena and its tenants time to, whether it's the NBA, NHL, wherever it might be, make arrangements.
And like you said, I mean, making arrangements with an NBA arena, in this case with the Charlotte Hornets, with the Hive, how is it working in the back and forth with not only the Spectrum Center, but with the Charlotte Hornets and with the organization when it comes to the ACC, working out all the pieces? I mean, obviously, it's better when everybody works together, so bring me into kind of that.
And it has been great. The people, both with the Hornets, the people in the Spectrum Center, people, both, they want us to be here too, and they also got to look out for their team. In the NBA, for instance, they're going to do a West Coast trip at some point in time.
Yeah.
And if you give, the Hornets are able to give the NBA advance notice, and they have some scheduling options for them. So in this case, they're out west. But it's cooperation, it's timing, it's lead time, enough runway to make all the arrangements work, and it can be a win-win.
I'm used to this Tuesday to Saturday for the ACC men's basketball tournament, Selection Sunday being the day after. Some conferences go right up to and on Selection Sunday. You go the day before. Bring me into placement, because there are conference tournaments that have already wrapped up. There's ones that are wrapping up, and the ACC goes all the way to the door but does not go on Selection Sunday. You have that day before.
I think at the end it goes back to 2015 that, and we worked with our television partners with ESPN. I believe 2015 was our first year of this format, the Tuesday through Saturday format. The Saturday night became available when the Big East reformed and Fox became their partner. So the ESPN had the Saturday night window open and available for us. Our athletic directors, coaches, it's been a great landing spot for us. But to take the primetime Saturday has really been beneficial to the league. You get a lot of eyeballs. The Big 12 championship game is on before us, and so if you're a basketball fan, you get to watch a Big 12 championship game followed by the ACC. It's a pretty good night.
Yeah, and when you speak on obviously the setup and the mechanics of this, when I came in covering the ACC around 2013, I saw this league grow. I've seen it grow as of last year to 18, but you made a decision. Some conferences were in a place where they said, hey, this is how many teams we have, this is our membership, but not everybody's going to make it. Other conferences said everybody's going to make it. The ACC was in a place at 15 where everybody made it. And then when you expanded to 18 with SMU, Cal, and Stanford last year, you stayed at 15. Bring me into that decision making.
Sure. If you went to 18, and the Big Ten went back to 18 for this year, so I'll be interested to talk to my counterparts out there and see how it was. When you go to 18, you have to add a day. So it became a 6-day tournament. At 15, the top 9 teams, which is our top 50% of our conference, get a bye in a sense. So, in a 16 or an 18 team tournament, 9 has to play another game. They don't get one bye. So that was all part of it. How do you best position your teams for postseason? Reward. If you finish in the top half of this conference, it's a small reward, but you get a bye to today, to the Wednesday. So that was all part of it. And maybe it's not perfect. We didn't want to just leave one or two out. The three protected the nine. So there was a lot of discussions about it in the AD room and in the coach's room. But it was just a place where you landed, and it's always open for a new look. I don't think people wanted to go to 12. You could do a tournament down to 12, and 6 people are not in it. But you don't want to cut yourself off too low either, and not give your teams a chance to make a run.
Well, and we've already seen in this year's tournament here in 2026 for the ACC men's basketball tournament that your lowest seed, your 15, has moved on in Pitt. And we've seen that in the Virginia Tech Wake Forest game, the 13 seed, not the 12, moved on. So is that already given kind of credence to staying at 15, saying, hey, if we went down to 12, if we shrunk this thing, 2 of these teams wouldn't be here?
Yes, I think it's all data, all analytics, anecdotal that you can look at and talk about and say, all right, is this the right size field? It kind of feels right. You don't want to see the teams that don't make it be out too many times. You'd like to see it. But I also think it speaks right now to the competitiveness of the league. We go pretty deep. If 15's advancing and 13's advancing, there's a lot of parity as you get through the league. So it's a good thing, I think, but we'll evaluate and continue to look at it and stay as flexible, organic as we can.
Do you think the ACC, in having the model that you have where not every team makes it, like you said, the Big Ten went to 18 now, and we'll see how that goes, but does that aid your regular season? We know you were at 20 games of the regular season, you dropped to 18, but now that teams know that they can't make it and that they can be locked out, so to speak, is that something that can help the conference to say we do have elimination teams?
Maybe. All I know, our last Saturday, we had a bunch of games that mattered, for teams to get here. We had a lot of things had to happen. Pittsburgh won its way here and knocked someone else out. Yeah. But it gave importance to those games at the end. I think if you look at pro sports, where sometimes less than half make it to postseason. Sure, it can make September baseball or April basketball and December football really, really interesting because of all the pieces and of the effects of a win or a loss by somebody somewhere.
Yeah, and I think when you look at that, I mean, I was at the game. I was at Syracuse-Pitt, and so if Syracuse beat Pitt, then BC gets in. If Pitt beats Syracuse, then Pitt gets in. Syracuse was in either way. But I was there. I was in that moment on March 7th saying, okay, this game means everything to Pitt. It also means everything to Boston College that has to sit and watch it.
They had to sit and watch. And in BC Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure they were a noon game. So they're fighting for it. And then the winner of that game, BC in this case, has to sit and wait for, I believe, a 4:30 game. Yeah. So it was, it had that. We've seen it in pro sports a lot where, teams in the locker room watching the other because, who's going to get in. And of course, you feel bad for the teams that don't, but it's really a thrill for the Pittsburgh players. And they came out yesterday and played like they were happy to be here, no doubt.
I've been in locker rooms where the games are on and they're watching other teams play. Yeah. And so we did talk a little bit about it, but I want to go back to it. The ACC having 18 conference games, then 20, now it's back to 18. What is that doing for the conference? How can that help now that we're in a world where a lot of teams will play 31 games in a season when it comes to ACC teams? So now we know if there's 18 in conference, there could be 13 out of conference, which means there's more opportunity for these schools to schedule and show committees late in the season. Look at what we've done.
And next year we add a game, so we're going to go to 32.
Yeah.
The bottom line, Dan, is it's not. I don't believe there's a secret sauce. You got to win games. This year, the ACC against the other Power 4 conferences, the other Power are, and then the Big East, 41-39, winning record. A year ago, we had a losing record, and fairly low, low winning percentage. So winning is the difference. Winning is the key. Sure, it's given some teams a little bit more room to schedule. It has.
Yeah.
So you can play some. Some people have scheduled a team that you might consider a power team, and some have had to schedule because you're scrambling to get games. Some maybe have played a team that you wouldn't consider a power team. But at the end of the day, you got to win games. Bottom line, you got to win games, and then because the Big Ten's got a lot of really good teams, and they play 20 games. So it's depends how you want to slice it.
What was there a push from the schools, from the leadership to go away from 20 and go down to 18? Did you feel like they wanted to have more non-conference?
I think we just wanted to look and we wanted to find out for ourselves. And if 18 was better for us, then let's take a look at it. If it was better to have more opportunities non-conference, let's take a look at it. So that's what we've done. Nothing locked in stone. I mean, it could always go back somewhere, differently down the road, depending on the landscape. Stuff is changing so fast in college sports, as you know.
Yeah.
God willing, we'll keep moving forward and find some good things.
I've spoken with your counterparts at the ACC when it comes to Michael Strickland and putting together the football schedule, and of course, Jackie Carson with putting together the women's basketball schedule. For you, when you're assembling a men's basketball schedule and there's 18 conference games and there's 18 teams, does that feel like it made it easier, or is it?
Well, we're a little unique because we kept a rival game.
Yeah.
And then so you have to have a second two-play team. Then that requires us to have a no-play team. So the puzzle isn't as easy as just you're going to play everybody once. You got 17 opponents and play somebody twice. But we want to feature our teams and create more showcase games because that's beneficial for the league and the conference. So it does come with some challenges. Then you have your other guidelines. You have our West Coast travel. East Coast teams going west, you're going to be out there for 2 games to play them both, and we got to set that up properly. When Cal and Stanford come east, they've got to do it 4 times to play 2 teams, and you're trying to make it geographic sense for those teams. And you can't always do it. They can't always come and play both Virginia and Virginia Tech. It's not going to work. But we try to look at all those things. So it complicates the puzzle, no doubt about it. We've got some television requests. You've got some building holes, or maybe the NC State shares a building with the Hurricanes in hockey. So there might be a time when they can't be in their building, and so there's a lot of pieces to that. It's the puzzle to put it together because you got to come up with a schedule at the end.
How do you, like the pillars of your schedule, the foundational pieces, when you are putting the schedule together? I know you alluded to some things right there, but what helps you assemble your schedule going off of, like you said, some of those points of the West Coast teams and team travel and whatnot and requests, but are there things that essentially you try to make sure, like, hey, this is my foundation? Because it is daunting to look at 18 schools and say, how the heck am I going to do this? So what are some of those things that you feel like kind of help you put the puzzle together?
The blank canvas is the most critical piece. If you have no building holes, you have no overlap, no conflicts with wrestling tournament and then, fencing tournament, whatever you want. If it was completely blank, it was easier. Well, it's not. It's never going to be completely blank. You got holidays. You've got sometimes more Saturdays than midweeks. So you've got all these things to try to manage. You play 9 games. So you got 5 midweek, 4 weekend, or 4 midweek, 5 weekends. I mean, because you're trying to also look at for each school. They've got to sell tickets, and they've got to get people to come into the building. So there's a lot of pieces to it. Travel being a big part of it. The 2 teams going west, or west teams coming east. There's a lot of little pieces to it, but computers really help you.
I was gonna say, I mean, for you, are you inputting this into the computer, and is it running? Like, is it giving back to you strategic planning? Essentially, you put it in there, and then it's gonna funnel out and say, like, here are your options.
Yes, we enter some restrictions, so to speak. We need Carolina Duke to be the last Saturday of the year. It's a traditional spot for it. It's important to the ACC. So every time you lock a piece of the puzzle, it affects somewhere else. There's a ripple every time you do that. If we'll use NC State, as I mentioned, if the Hurricanes are home for an entire week and we can't go to, they must either be a bye or a road team. It locks pieces of the puzzle. So you do that over and over on a number of things, and then we call it the puzzle needs to solve.
Yeah.
It'll spit out a schedule that meets all of our guidelines and requirements and the pillars, as you mentioned. But then, is it fair? You got to look at all those types of things. So it's the computer really helps us, obviously, but you have to look at them and talk about them and think about it and see where it gets us. But we end up every year that we've been here, and long before I got here, they've had a schedule and they've played it. So you finally get to a place where it's balanced and a good rotation.
I mean, the Atlantic Coast Conference, by definition, was riding the East Coast. And now that SMU and Cal and Stanford are a piece of this puzzle, I know we're only a couple of years in, but how has the response been of their travel, teams traveling to them? Because you have one smack dab in the middle of the country, and then you have two on the other side of the country.
SMU is, in a sense, can be treated like our old footprint, in the sense that if you take the middle of our conference, if you take the triangle, and you say triangle to Dallas, to Boston, or Miami, or Syracuse, it's almost all the same. Maybe your flight's 15 minutes longer going to SMU. So SMU, that travel would be more similar to what we had before. It's going to the Bay Area. I mean, that's different now. Our teams only do it every other year.
Yeah.
The East Coast teams, they go every other year, and our friends at Stanford and Cal, they got to come 4 times every year. So they've got a difficult travel, but man, they've really done well. So.
Jim Phillips, the leader of this conference, the commissioner, I've spent a lot of time with Jim and the type of human being that he is on and off the air, and I also spent a lot of time with John Swafford. So when you speak of leadership of the ACC and we look at what John looked to build and expand upon and what Jim is building and expanding upon, what can you say about this leadership?
Man, working in this conference has been an unbelievable honor of my life to work with folks. And you mentioned 2 guys that have done terrific. John and Jim are both good people first and foremost, and then it spreads through. John Swafford grew the league in ways, in a different time. Now Jim's got to take it and sail further. And there's challenges. Wow, there's challenges. This is a new world of college sports, new order. But we've got, fortunately, our colleagues at the ACC who help and contribute. We've got some, I like to think, I have some colleagues, I'll leave myself out of it, it's got some good brain power to help navigate these hurdles and challenges that college athletics is facing. So we're very fortunate. I've been fortunate really my whole life to work with a lot of great leaders, and when I worked at the NBA with Commissioner Stern and right through Commissioner Swafford and Jim, it's been a lot of fun.
And then before I let you go, that work in the NBA with David Stern, just bring me into what that experience was like and how it's helped you to today.
The NBA and other pro sports leagues, it's cutting edge. We were cutting edge in terms of technology, in terms of breakthroughs, rules and things in the game itself. Then it grew, very dynamic, and it's different because there's 30 NBA franchises. There's 30 pro teams. In college we've got our 18. The SEC has 16, 18, and so it's a different environment, a different enterprise. Pro sports, because you really, NFL is competing internal. I mean, they compete on the field and they collectively grow the league. So they're different.
Yeah, and I mean, as you look at not just that experience but overall, what prepared you for this job? What prepared you to be the senior VP when it comes to ACC men's basketball? How did the road here get you to a place where you felt like, hey, I can take on this challenge?
Well, When you're driving down the road, you don't always think about how to get into this lane. It just kind of comes. The traffic moved here. It's not a straight. You're changing lanes, you're swerving, you're going around corners, but you're getting to that destination. Yeah. And that's, to be honest, that's short. When I got out of college with you today and chatting and talking about this or being in this role, no, I absolutely did not. But this is what God has led us to, and it's been really good. I'm really blessed. It's been an unbelievable to be involved in college basketball, be involved in basketball with the pros. It was great. I've enjoyed. I don't know if I think I go to work in the morning. I just get up and get to go do something I really like. So it's never been, quote, work for me. It's been kind of a labor of love. Really enjoy it.
You mentioned God. You said wherever God leads you, and you also talked about the fact that it doesn't feel like work. I can equal both of those points. So I'd love to end on that and just your faith, as well as saying, hey, when I get up in the morning, I might work 16 hours today, but I love what I do.
Love what we do. It's a lot of fun. I've been really blessed with a great group of colleagues here and elsewhere, but this group, the amount of time and effort putting this tournament on for this, these last week, the women's tournament, a bunch of our folks work there, and then they have to come right up from Duluth to here. Yeah. Wow. And they work hard. No one smiles, and we're tired, but we'll rest later on.
What are you most grateful for?
Well, most grateful for my family, and first and foremost, and the blessings that all of us have in my immediate home, and a good family. My parents, my family, my wife, and children has been special. That's what I'm most grateful for. But again, to have been on this path in college basketball, it's something I always loved, and now I got to kind of make a living out of it too. So a lot of fun.
That coming from Paul Brazeau here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're on site, on location at the Spectrum Center. We call it DT on the ACC. We've been doing many years of our coverage here, 14 of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and it continues today and all throughout this week, on site, on location at the Spectrum Center from the home of the Charlotte Hornets, a.k.a. the Hive, for this ACC men's basketball tournament, all leading us to Selection Sunday. Paul, thank you for your time.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We'll be right back inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad. Despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here, we just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to Buffalo, they're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening the doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people, that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing, and so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time, and the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. We want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. You can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, everyone in the world's gonna sell a pizza or a burger or a French fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. We have a delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, and you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Caz location, and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point, because you get a little something different at each one. We understand how hard it is to work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge, and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item, available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are on site, on location at the Spectrum Center. And of course, we are in the broadcast room on the other side of the wall that is in front of me here. We head out onto the court of the Spectrum Center where I was yesterday and covering all the games that happened yesterday, including the lowest seeded team, 15 of 15, the Pitt Panthers taking down the number 10 seeded Stanford Cardinal. And then SMU was able to make quick work of the Syracuse Orange, the 11 seed taking down the 14 seed. And in the nightcap, we had the 13 seeded Wake Forest Demon Deacons go up against 12 seeded Virginia Tech Hokies. Wake Forest led for the majority of the game, and despite there being a bunch of ties and lead changes, Wake Forest in overtime took care of business 95-89 to secure their victory and move on, which leads us into today. And I'm happy to be here with you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. This is something that I want to announce and I want to talk about here on the show as it's happening live. And I thank God that I've had the opportunity to be live for many things that have happened in the sports and entertainment world. This one's a little bit different for me because I consider him to be a friend of many years, of more than a decade. Syracuse announced this morning that they are parting ways with Adrian Autry. He will not return as the head coach of the men's basketball program for the 2026-27 season. A national search for the program's next head coach is said to have commenced and will move expeditiously. The director of athletics, John Wildhack, he's the director of athletics until July 1st of 2026. So even though he's announced that he's stepping away, he is still the leader. So it says, quote, Adrian first came to Syracuse as a student athlete in 1990. And this program has been a constant in his life ever since. As a player, assistant coach, associate head coach, and ultimately as head coach, end quote, which is John Wildhack said this. He said, quote, his dedication to our student athletes on and off the court never wavered throughout his time here. And we are grateful for his service and commitment to Orange basketball, end quote. Adrian said something very simple, and that was that he said, quote, it has been an honor to coach at my alma mater, end quote. Went on to say, quote, I want to thank Chancellor Siverud, John Wildhack, Jim Boeheim, my team, and my staff for their support. So it's tough. It's tough to see this morning. Like I said, I consider Adrian a friend. He was named the program's 8th coach in March of 2023, following the retirement of Jim Boeheim, who spent 47 seasons as the head coach of the Syracuse Orange. Adrian compiled a record just above 500 in 3 seasons at Syracuse, 49 and 48. They did not make the NCAA tournament in any of his seasons. And prior to being the head coach, he spent 12 seasons on Jim Boeheim's staff, coaching through 7 NCAA tournament appearances and a Final Four in 2013 and 2016. Syracuse stated in their press release they sent to us in the media that they are committed to returning men's basketball to the national prominence this program has long represented. The university will conduct a thorough and expedient search for the program's next head coach. Wildhack went on to say, quote, "We are going to move quickly and with purpose. This is one of the most storied programs in college basketball, and we intend to hire a proven winner who will build on that legacy. We are looking for a coach who can recruit at the highest level, develop players, and compete for championships, conference, and national. Syracuse fans deserve nothing less, and that is exactly what we are going to deliver," end quote. So as of this morning, less than 24 hours after Syracuse lost their final game of the season and lost a lot of their games in the back half of this season, Adrian Autry is no longer the head coach of the Syracuse Orange, and after 3 years with the program and a record of 49-48, he moves forward and will go ahead and we'll see what the future is going to look like for Syracuse. In other news, after Syracuse lost yesterday, Jerry McNamara, who is only in his second season with the Siena Saints, went on to lead the team into an automatic bid for the NCAA tournament, Division I men's basketball. The Siena Saints taking down Merrimack the 1 seed in the MAAC and Siena the 3 seed. Jerry McNamara's team is going to the NCAA tournament, and I'm sure, obviously this is not on purpose, it's just a consequential thing that happens, but Jerry looking great as Adrian not looking so great, with the two coaches both being head coaches at the time yesterday, and Jerry being the name that they continue to talk about for the Syracuse Orange. And Jerry right now, for the here and now, is the Siena head coach. He's going to the NCAA tournament, and it happens on a night where Syracuse once again does not advance to the NCAA tournament. So I'm sure a lot of fans, and I put up the video last night of Siena making it, and over 1,000 people just on Facebook alone responded in just a few hours because, the emphasis on Syracuse needing to get back to their standard being met with the fact that Jerry McNamara has brought Siena to a new standard is something that's paralleling right now in college basketball. So with that being said, I have Bob Holliday here with me, WRAL Sports, and Bob and I have been on the show before. We've never been able to be in the same room together, and we are in this broadcast room, and like I've told you before, as we're live with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Spectrum Center, the Hive, the home of the Charlotte Hornets. Right on the other side of the wall of this broadcast room is the Court 2, the Spectrum Center and the ACC tournament here in 2026, and I'm happy to be here with Mr. Holliday. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. It is wonderful to do this in person.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. I know it's been a minute since you and I got to speak in general, and first and foremost and most importantly, I want to say that I'm happy that you're here. I know you've spent a lot of years in covering the ACC as a longtime sports journalist, and I'm happy more than anything else for your health because I know that a lot of prayers have gone your way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This is my 47th ACC tournament. I'm going to make it to 50. But yeah, I was a 20-mile-a-week runner, as you know, until a couple of years ago, and then I've gotten arthritis and I have inflammation. And anyway, so I'm slower getting around, but I can still cover a game. I can still chart a game and analyze it and so forth. And the Wake Forest Virginia Tech game last night was wonderful. What a great, and the Pitt game also. But what a great way to start the tournament for me to watch. West Durham from Apex and my friend Debbie Antonelli from Cary called that game along with Dennis Triple D Scott, and a blow for the Hokies because they were on the bubble and now they're really on the bubble. But I was very impressed with Wake Forest back in early January before Nate Calmeese got hurt. They had a great chance to beat Carolina. Yeah. And they've struggled because of Nate's injury especially. But anyway, good to see them get another opportunity to play.
Coach Steve Forbes of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. I mean, what I love most about Coach Forbes is he just has fun. He commands a press conference. He doesn't let anybody run him anywhere. And I was sitting in the front row yesterday and getting some late night comedy. So what do you like about, just kind of his personality, because he brings a different element to the game?
He certainly does. I was watching the ACC Network last night, and Luke Hancock, kind of called out his defense. He said, wasn't it great to win on a night when you didn't play your best? And he said, well, defensively we did have some issues, but he looked at it and said, but Luke, I think we scored 95 points. That's a pretty good night there.
He also made a joke about the fact that there was an NCAA all-time record for offensive rebounds by Virginia Tech. So he did talk about that. You made mention of Pitt, the 15 seed, the lowest seed in the tournament, defeated 10-seeded Stanford. So, I mean, obviously Virginia Tech's hopes and any hope that maybe Stanford had, those things get put in a not-so-great area. But it also, I would think, speaks to the fact that the ACC has gotten stronger and that the teams that are considered to be the weaker links obviously are not the case, because Wake brought it the entire game with Virginia Tech and led most of the game and barely trailed. And then we look at the fact with Pittsburgh that they were able to stave off anything that Stanford gave them.
The ACC is really balanced, other than when Duke is playing its best defense, they're in a class by themselves. That may be the best defensive team I've ever seen. And when Carolina has all of its players, they're in Duke's category. They were quite fortunate to win in Chapel Hill, and of course got taken apart in the second half last Saturday. Virginia is very good. Carolina was very fortunate to win at Virginia, but when you watch the Duke Virginia game, Duke's defense completely took them out of what they do. So I think Duke is in a class by itself when the Blue Devils are healthy. But at the same time, and there might be a second tier, Virginia, Carolina, Miami, the seeded teams. But there's so much balance in the ACC. You take a team like NC State, which had such a great start, and then they lost 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7. Their defense has really fallen apart. They played great defense early in the year and early in the ACC season, and they just haven't lately.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, when we look at kind of what this conference has done and what it's brought to it, I mean, here as we are on day 2 of the ACC tournament, the T. Rowe Price ACC tournament here inside of the Hive at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina, where Wake Up Call is broadcasting live from. Myself, Dan Tortora, here with Bob Holliday sitting in. The second round will start at noon Eastern time on ESPN2, where Pitt will take on NC State. And you just mentioned NC State, so I want to stick with this for a second. NC State is one of the top 9 seeds, did not have to play in the first round. And so their 7 seed will host the 15-seeded Pitt here to start off round 2 of the ACC tournament. What have you seen when you look at covering the triangle as close as you do from this Wolfpack?
They're not big, and they're not a great rebounding team at all. They shoot the 3, and when the 3s are falling, especially, and they force a lot of turnovers, but it's kind of a boom or bust defense where they may turn you over 12 times and get some points off turnovers, but if you beat their pressure, they give up a high field goal percentage. So it's kind of an unusual combination, but that's what I've been seeing. Thank goodness for NC State, Van Allen Lubin transferred from Carolina. He's been their most solid player inside by far, and really, arguably their most solid player all year long. Kadir Copeland is a great playmaker. Didn't have a real super game last outing, so you kind of look for him to have a big one today, and so forth.
You mentioned Quadir Copeland, and I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time around Q because he spent 2 seasons at Syracuse. He's only gotten better. He left Syracuse. I'll never forget when we were in Greensboro for the ACC tournament and Syracuse lost very early. I went into the locker room and I spoke with Q and I said, hey, listen, I said, you're a 1 or a 2, like you're a combo guard. He looked right at me. He said, I came here to play 1. I'm a 1. That's what I'm here for. And I could feel in that moment, if he stayed at Syracuse and he was not the 1, that he would probably leave. he did do that, and as he left and went forward, he was able to, with McNeese, win their conference, go into the NCAA tournament, take down Clemson of the ACC before coming to NC State. What have you seen from Q as he's continued to trend upward in his collegiate basketball career?
He's very creative. He excels at driving and kicking. And, of course, he can take the shot himself, but he's probably almost a pass-first player. He'll have double digits in points and assists a lot of times. And so, yeah, he's fun to watch, and he's big. He's a serious matchup problem. State is going to see some zones because of him, although with the shooters they have, that can be a risky proposition as well.
His personality, that's something that brings another element to the game. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He shows his emotions. He likes to get the crowd involved. If the crowd doesn't like him, he loves it. If the crowd likes him, he loves it. What's that like to see that dynamic with him? Because I think he brings a different personality that maybe the Wolfpacks had in a minute.
Yeah, I think earlier in the season, Coach Wade put the ball in Troy Hallman's hands, and then gradually came to the conclusion that it's got to be Q. And I think the offense has been better since that has happened. And if their defense had kept pace, they'd have a better record right now. I did want to say that I've known Jeff Capel since he was a high school player in Fayetteville. Remember doing high school stories on him, and he wound up at Duke, and I actually thought he might one day be one of the candidates for the Duke job, but he and his brother kind of settled in at Pitt, but they're competitors, in a way, Pitt is the kind of team that NC State has trouble on because they're gritty. They're gritty, and that's not what State, especially on the glass, that's not what State does well, is get gritty rebounds. So watch the rebounding stats today. If Pitt gets a lot of offensive rebounds like they did yesterday, it could be a long day for the Wolfpack. If they box out better, and part of it is that I don't know that the guards box out. You see, Lubin boxes out, but yeah, you see people crash the glass that are unchecked.
Yeah, and you made mention of it and went back to it in the sense of the fact that NC State, if they struggle on the boards, Pitt is a team that likes being long, likes being big underneath, being gritty, getting after it. That's how they wear teams down. That's how they stay in games. You also mentioned the fact of Jeff Capel and knowing him when he was a high school player. I've loved speaking with Coach Capel. I've loved being around him. I've loved to see. I love the fact that he has his own program. What can you say to the effect of, you're in a unique state that you saw him grow as a high school player, then you saw him obviously at Duke and his connection there, and then now to where he is at Pitt. In your coverage of Jeff Capel, how would you describe his trajectory and the person he's become?
Well, he was at Duke in an interesting time because, he was played a lot as a freshman point guard in 1994, but then, Coach K took his sabbatical, and, Duke went through a very lean year in 1995, and it took even after Mike came back, it took a while to get back to where they were, and so. This hasn't happened to many Duke players recently, but Jeff was there, in a Final Four year, and then had a couple of down years, and just finally in '98 they got back to being, Duke. They didn't beat Kentucky, but they were competitive, and of course in '99 they should have won it all, and they didn't quite, but. So yeah, that was unusual for a Duke player to go through that, but Jeff did, and so he left right as they were starting to get really good again.
Yeah, and when you talk about Duke and we look at being good again, this is a team where people were concerned a few years ago. Coach K hangs it up. He's the all-time winningest coach for NCAA Division I men's basketball and everything that he's done. And then it's, okay, well, John Shire was working underneath him, and John Shire was doing some of those halftime interviews and was already kind of being groomed to take the job. But the question was, without Coach K, what will John Shire be? I can say from my perspective, watching him interact, I've interviewed him a bunch, and I've interviewed him when he's around his players. They seem to have a great relationship with him. They seem to have a fondness for him and a connection to him. Are you surprised that Duke made such a successful transition from a Hall of Famer to John Shire to now still be a number one team in the country, probably a number one seed in the NCAA tournament, and once again be a team where it's copy and paste? When it comes to March Madness, they're a team that you have to go through, and a lot of teams can't go through them.
Mike Krzyzewski is all about West Point,
Yeah.
and he had a succession plan. That's what they do at West Point is they're great at logistics and great at long range planning, and you'd have to. I was always fascinated. I'd ask myself, back in the 10 years ago when the time comes for Mike to step down, who will he pick? It could have been one of several people. It could have been Johnny Dawkins. I guess Danny Ferry got into the GM side, but certainly had a coach's mentality. Anyway, and it could have been Jeff, but at the point in time that he was ready to make the decision, John Shire was on the scene, and he knew obviously that John Shire would be great, and they haven't really missed a beat. John is different, but emphasizes a lot of the same things. I want to tell you my all-time favorite Mike Krzyzewski coaching story.
Yeah.
And it's topical because of the way that Cam and Caden Boozer have been playing. Carlos Boozer broke a bone in his foot. In fact, I was surprised they didn't talk about this on ACC Network last night because he's been through something similar to what Caleb Foster's going through. Mm-hmm. It was senior night, and they lost to Maryland. And not only that, but Carlos Boozer broke his foot, and he's going to be out for a while. And they were going to play Carolina the next Sunday, and a lot of us in the media thought, well, they've got no chance now. You can write this one up. They met all night long, he and his assistants, and decided to make a major change. They decided to bring Chris Duhon into the lineup and put Nate James in more of a reserve role and go small. They had a three-guard look, and they rotated three guys at center. Yeah. Casey Sanders and Matt Christensen and Reggie Love. Anyway, they shot. They stunned Carolina. They beat Carolina by 14, and it was just electric. I mean, they really pushed the tempo. They really shot a lot of threes. In 3 of their first 4 NCAA games, they topped the 90 mark. And then by the time they got to the Final Four, Carlos was ready to come back. And they didn't change, but obviously they used him, and he helped them win the national championship. But they made 407 threes, which was an NCAA record at the time. Yeah. And that's Mike Krzyzewski.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, I mean, he knew how to navigate things. It doesn't ever seem like, and you talked about succession plan and West Point and connecting that to Coach K, it doesn't seem like he is ever void of a backup plan or a backup plan to the backup plan. Do you also see that with John Shire?
Well, this is probably a good test for him because he's got real injuries. Caleb Foster was playing great defense and gives him a veteran on offense who can shoot the three and attack the basket. I've never seen, all about Malik Brown. Yeah. Best defensive player I've ever seen him, but Dame Sarr is just as good. And to have 2 defenders like that, how do you score? And Caleb Foster had become their 3rd best defender. Yeah. And so, he'll be missed defensively. I will say that Caden Boozer, Cam's twin, Cam's much smaller twin, is a really good player. I covered Duke several times in person in January, and I think one game he started, but he when he would come off the bench, he's using. I love the hockey stat plus minus. Caden's plus minus was always good. He didn't necessarily score, but the team did better while he was on the floor. Yeah. And offensively, he'll play well, and they're so good defensively that I think they'll be fine with him. But the biggest issue is depth now. And of course, Patrick Gamba has a foot issue, but his is more of a day-to-day. He's not going to play in this tournament. They're going to take the safe route and rest him. But he's a loss because he's a shot blocker, good rebounder, and he can score. So Duke is now thinner inside. It's more on Cam Boozer, but he's got really big shoulders and he can handle it.
Well, and you mentioned Malik Brown, and like with Quadir Copeland, guys that I got to know at Syracuse, and obviously cover Syracuse my entire career of 22-plus years, covered the ACC for now 14, so the majority of that as a whole. And being around Q, I saw something. I saw something Syracuse could not lose. Being around Malik Brown, I saw something that Syracuse could not lose. And a couple years ago, I said here on the show, here on Wake Up Call, I said you cannot lose Malik Brown because he's your nucleus. You can't lose Q, who would be the second worst thing to lose. If you lose them both, it's done. And since they've lost them both, they have been done. They're not making the NCAA tournament. NC State is looking to make the tournament. Duke is obviously going to make the tournament. And these guys have been a big part of that. So to go to Malik Brown, to go to yet another piece that Syracuse lost, when I spoke with John Shire about him, he was just emphatically in love with this kid. Everything that he does and the utility belt that he is, and it only seems like he's grown more. Malik himself, it seems like John Shire's appreciation from him has grown, and you just gave him huge props for his ability to play defense and what he does to help this team, because you can score a lot of points, but if you can't hold a team down, it doesn't matter. And I would put you on another name on the list, essentially, of the people that have come to respect Malik's game.
Absolutely, and he can guard 1 through 5. With his length, that's just exceptional. I mean, I understood how good he was defensively, but what really sold me was last year in the Smith Center, R.J. Davis was just lighting him up. Yeah. He just became Carolina's second leading scorer, I believe, of all time. And they put his jersey up in the rafters last Saturday or last Monday. Anyway, they put Malik on him in the second half, and RJ didn't score again. Yeah, he's pretty terrific.
Yeah, I mean he's elevated himself to a place, and like I said, he was the guy that was willing to do anything at Syracuse, and you couldn't afford to lose him even if he didn't show up in the stat sheet. And it seems like now with Duke, he went from, okay, who is this reserve guy who's going to find his – is he going to find his way on the floor? Is he going to get ample minutes? To now he's an integral piece of what Duke is doing. How has he pleasantly – I don't know if I want to say he's pleasantly surprised you, but what has Malik done from last year to this year that's really stuck out to you?
Good question. Just more of the same, I think. His offensive game is a little better. He makes an occasional three. It's not his specialty. Yeah. I think he's improved his rebounding. But yeah, his defense I think his arms are getting longer. I mean, he just gets so many hands on loose balls and deflects passes and blocks shots, and he's something to watch.
You spoke about jersey retirement and the fact that there are schools that will retire a jersey when a player is still playing. They'll honor the player before the player leaves. I think they did it with Tyler Hansbrough at North Carolina or something around, well, in short order time. My hometown of Syracuse takes forever and a day, and it'll be decades after a player plays. I mean, the guys that I'm seeing get retired now played 30 years ago, 40 years ago. What can you say to that subject of retiring someone when they're young, when they can appreciate it, when their kids are very little, when they're essentially just starting their life, versus somebody who may be toward the end of their life saying, okay, well, now that you're 67 years old, we're going to put this out here. Now that you're 70, 80 years old, we're finally going to do this. To have a player, to have certain schools say to their players, like, we want to honor you when people remember you playing because it happened just a few years ago, or it happened recently.
Well, there are two levels. There's having the jersey retired where it's never worn again.
Yeah.
And then there are schools honor jerseys. And that at Carolina, if you're an All-American, your jersey will be honored. And that was the case with RJ. If you have to be Player of the Year for your jersey to be retired. And there are lots and lots of jerseys up in the rafters. Rick Barnes was asked once, Clemson couldn't beat Carolina forever, and he was asked, Coach, why can't you beat Carolina? He said, look up in the rafters. But yeah, when you're the Player of the Year, James Worthy, Michael Jordan, then you get to another level.
Yeah, and that leads us perfectly into the North Carolina Tar Heels. They've had their ups and downs this season. They've continued to be ranked at this point nationally, but we've seen them kind of float in different places within the ACC standings, but we've also seen that they have the ability to take down the mighty Duke. So what have you seen from the Tar Heels this year?
Well, I think Duke's season and Carolina's season both turned on the West Coast road trip. John Shire was not happy with his defense before the California road trip. He was even tinkering with his starting lineup, trying to get better defensive pressure. But they found their defense on that trip, and they've been hellacious defensively ever since. Carolina, meanwhile, was playing well offensively, but they had some issues. They weren't covering the three ball, and it's not that Hubert Davis can't coach defense against the three. Through the years, defense against the three has been a Carolina weakness.
Yeah.
Although Coach Dean Smith was very instrumental in bringing the three-point shot about, his teams often gave up a high percentage from three, and same with Roy Williams. Hubert Davis, the last couple of years, his teams have really defended the three well, but this year not. And I think part of it is you've got so many new players, the communication is different. But also the big men were not closing out quickly enough. They have some responsibility for running out on the three-point shooters, and that wasn't happening. And it certainly didn't happen on the California trip because both Stanford and Cal feasted from beyond the arc, and that really set Carolina back. They were at a point where their season could crumble, and Caleb Wilson showed great leadership as a freshman, and I think he and Seth Trimble, played a big part in getting things correct again. And after they beat Duke, that was a huge thing. But you got to remember, they were down 9 points with just a couple minutes left in the game, and down 6 points, and hit 3 threes, and they didn't lead until 0.4 seconds left, but they led when it mattered. So, but that was a big win, and the win at Virginia was a big win. Jaron Stevenson played really well in the clutch that day. To that point, he hadn't had that great a game, but that day he did, and he's played better since. And also, of course, Caleb had some big shots in that game. Caleb really wanted to come back. He wanted to come back and experience the Cameron indoor stadium atmosphere as a player. Yeah. And he was close. He was close. And I thought, there's a chance he might play, and I was shocked to learn that. His left hand was what he had injured before. That was about healed, but he broke his thumb dunking, of all things, non-contact drill, and he had surgery, and he will not play again. And he's so much fun to watch. He's a very unusual talent. I mean, you can be playing great defensive on him and 12 feet away, and he just jumps up and shoots it over you. He can hit the three. Fast break with the best of them. The other really hard injury was losing Seth Trimble early in the season. Yeah. Quick story, Seth played at Menominee Falls in Wisconsin. I played at Brookfield East. And I told Seth's brother JP this, that back in my day in the late 60s, we used to beat Menominee Falls like a drum. But now Brookfield East is a soccer school, and Menominee Falls obviously has had some excellent basketball teams. But having lived in Milwaukee, I kind of extra pull for Seth a little bit. But he's their best defender on a team that's not great defensively. They're okay, and he's their best transition player. And so when he was out, let's see, he was there for the Kansas game, but I think he got injured soon after that. And so when they played Michigan State and Ohio State and some of those teams in December, they were just not. They were much more of a half-court team. And you could see when Seth came back in January, immediately there's more transition. He's not Malik Brown in terms of getting his hands on the ball, but he does get steals, and above all, when somebody else or rebounds. When there's an attempt to, when Carolina has a chance to get the ball down quickly, Seth is always there.
Well, you mentioned Trimble. You mentioned what he's done. He's elevated his game, right? He's grown as a player.
Yes.
Where have you seen that the most from him?
Well, leadership for sure. He's a better shooter now. He didn't make that many threes before, and he's got one, a three that people will remember for the rest of his life. It's probably the most famous three ball in Carolina history, other than Luke May's three with 1 second left to beat Kentucky to go to the Final Four. He's definitely a better shooter, and defensively he's probably, he's just smarter than he used to be. I mean, he was always smart, but experience really pays off.
You mentioned Caleb Wilson and the fact that he wanted to fight to come back. He wanted the opportunity to be there. I remember seeing the news with his hand injury and, like you said, a non-contact drill that he went through, and dunking the ball and injuring his thumb. And what does that do? I mean, North Carolina's in the top 4 of the ACC. They're not going to have to play until the quarterfinals, and they are the 4 seed. So they will be playing the winner of Wake Forest, who's a 13 seed, and 5 seeded Clemson, which will be the final game of the quarterfinal round on Thursday, March 12th, here at the Spectrum Center, where we're broadcasting live inside of the broadcast room from on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Caleb not being there, but still being a top 4 seed, do they have enough to be able to withstand what they may see in this tournament and in the tournament that follows?
As long as they have Vesar, they had to play NC State without both of them, and State was primed for that game. They were going to win anyway, I think, but Carolina was no match without their 2 leading scorers. But anyway, we just saw Clemson, so Clemson had a terrible night from beyond the arc, but they kept putting them up, and it might be that if they pounded it inside more, they would have won the game. But they kept putting up threes, and their defense is terrific. They're very physical. Coach Forbes said that they're one of the 2 or 3 most physical teams in the league, and they're a great defensive rebounding team. Carolina got almost no second shots against Clemson, and they I think they shot 38% from free. I mean, they made enough threes to win, but Clemson would be formidable. We know that. Carolina had a terrible time trying to cover Godfrey. They couldn't. Vesar was trying to keep himself in the game, not get in foul trouble, and then I think High also came in and guarded him some, and it didn't seem to matter who was on him. Godfrey was very tough in the post, but they shot a lot of threes and had some misses. Now Wake Forest is an interesting proposition if Nate can continue to play. Almost nobody knows this story, but it's because I saw it in a unique place. I was In the Smith Center, I like to leave a little bit early because I don't walk very fast anymore. And so I was watching outside the Coliseum and listening to Jones Angels' fine play-by-play. Anyway, Wake Forest was trying to make a comeback. They were out of timeouts. And so Nate Cormies makes a three, and then he goes down. And Jones and Tyler joked about how he said, yeah, he limped slowly to the bench and gave Coach Forbes a wink.
Yeah.
And he was fortunate because they were able to foul 1 second later. So he got right back in the game and made another three. But time was running out. I think they'd cut the lead to like 3, I think. And Juke Harris understood that Nate could not fake another injury. So Juke Harris faked an injury. And he tried to make it look convincing, went down. As soon as the ball went in, he went down. But he didn't understand that when you fake an injury, you have to leave the game.
Yeah.
And so he left the game. It was a 3-point game with 5 seconds left. And Steve Forbes talked about last night how it doesn't make much sense to call a timeout if you got something going.
Yeah.
And so he didn't call timeout. Nate took the final 3 and missed. And so, if Juke Harris had been on the floor, who knows? Might have gone to overtime and Wake would have won because they had momentum. But that was memorable. I've never seen a game just like that.
Yeah, we'll see if the ACC takes their football rule and puts it into basketball when it comes to feigning injuries and things that have gone on here. The Wake Forest game that you're talking about, 87-84, North Carolina won that game at home in Chapel Hill. When we look at North Carolina this season, they have defeated Kansas. They lost to Michigan State. They defeated Kentucky by 1 possession. In Ohio State, it's been a team on the bubble. They beat them by a point. They did lose to Stanford and Cal, as you made mention of. They lost to SMU. All those games were on the road.
SMU's really good. I'm impressed with SMU. They were struggling now because B.J. Edwards has been injured, but they're thinking that he could come back pretty quickly. And with him on the floor, as well as Boopy, they're a handful. They're especially offensively.
Yeah, I can tell you that Andy Enfield and the work that he's done with this SMU Mustangs team, I don't think anybody should see them as an easy out in this ACC tournament and as they work forward for more. And that second game that North Carolina had against Duke, I was just speaking with Paul Brazeau, and he puts that schedule together, and he said every single year because it is part of history and it is something that they preserve in the ACC. When it comes to scheduling, the last game has to be Duke, North Carolina. And despite the fact that North Carolina was able to beat Duke at home in Chapel Hill by a possession, when they played them again on the road, they lost by almost 20 points, 15 points. What did you see in that game? Because I know, and I follow your trail and your journey, and when you're in these arenas, you're taking a picture saying another year of doing it. So when Cameron Indoor has that game 76-61 that Duke wins over North Carolina, what did that show you about 2 top 4 teams in the ACC right now?
I'm thinking of a running story, a marathon story. In the 1984 Olympic trials, Joan Benoit was running against NC State's Betty Springs. Joan was a heavy, you know what Joan Benoit became. Betty was very good also. They ran stride for 20 miles. And then Joan looks over at Betty and says, this is fun. Let's pick it up. And so Joni picks it up and gradually leaves Betty behind. And that game reminded me of that. Carolina played a lot better than I thought. They were much more competitive without Caleb than I thought they would be. Plus, there's the revenge factor. They really messed up Duke's season. The only league loss. So it was going. That was going to be a very difficult night for Carolina. But they were competitive in the first half, and for the first minute or two of the second half, they were still just 3-4 points down. And then, and then the Duke players said, "This is fun. Let's pick it up." And they did. And I thought it might even be like a 25 or 30 point play. Carolina went, 10 minutes and couldn't hit a shot, something like that. And but they actually made a couple baskets late to make the score a more respectable 15. But it was definitely headed to be a 20 to 25 point margin before the last couple minutes, which made it sound better at 76-61. But if you watch the game, you know what happened.
Yeah, Bob Holliday here with us, WRAL, and a longtime sports journalist. A final point here, Bob, as you and I have spent many years together. You said that this is your 47th ACC tournament, and you're not the only person I've talked to that has a 47 next to them. Jim Boeheim was the head coach of Syracuse for 47 seasons. What has it been like to cover this tournament for almost 50 years, which has brought you to the Brooklyns and the Charlottes and the Greensboros? We're here in Charlotte right now. Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We know that the ACC had a history with Atlanta, Georgia as well. So what can you say about the road that you've taken that's given you almost 5 decades of covering these schools and seeing that there's been an evolution of the ACC? There's teams that have departed. There's teams that have entered. You've seen a lot in this 47 years that you've had.
The game has changed a lot. Remember, in the 70s and 80s, teams had 5 timeouts. Mm-hmm. You could use them at any time. This was in the day before the television, before the regular television timeout. You had TV timeouts, but they weren't structured like they are now. And Dean Smith revolutionized many things, but he revolutionized the use of the timeout. In the 60s and early 70s, virtually every team would call timeout to set up their offense. He would call timeout after a made basket to set up his defense. And you've heard about the great 8-point comeback in 17 seconds against Duke with no 3-point shot. That was the recipe right there. Carolina scored a basket, timeout set up the defense. Carolina stole the inbounds pass, made another basket, timeout set up the defense. Then they fouled, they got the inbound pass, so they fouled him, missed the foul shot, and ultimately Walter Davis sunk a 30-footer to force overtime. But that totally changed the game. There was another time, like in Phil Ford's freshman year in 1975, this was one of my favorite. That was the greatest tournament of all time in terms of close games. 6 games were decided by a collective 20 points. Every game came down to the final minute. And Carolina looked like they were going to be knocked out by Wake Forest, and Wake had actually beaten them the year before on a 94-foot pass from Eddie Payne to Lee Foy. And it looked like they were headed for another loss because they were down by 8 points with 50 seconds to go. And, Carolina scored, timeout, set up the defense. Carolina gets the steal, scores, timeout, set the defense. Wake Forest throws, after the timeout, they threw a 94-foot pass that Skip Brown caught. It was Jerry Schellenberg who threw it. Skip Brown caught it in stride and laid it in. Game over. Referee Fred Heichel says, nope, ball hit the scoreboard. Carolina ball under their own basket. And, of course, Brad Hoffman curled in a jumper with about 3 seconds left, and they forced overtime and won in overtime. I had the privilege of doing Legends interviews when the ACC was doing basketball legends, and Carl Tacey, the Wake Forest coach, was one of my lessons. And, of course, I asked him about that. And he said it was a terrible call, the ball never hit the scoreboard. It never changed directions. It should have counted. We should have won that game. And he said, and you notice the guy who made the call never called another ACC game after that. So anyway, memories are long. And, of course, Carolina had a nail-biter with Clemson. Tree Rollins, the 7-footer, has a jump hook that goes in and out and out. And they go to overtime and win. And Phil Ford later told me, he said, I was reborn after that shot kicked out. I thought we were done. And then the nightcap was probably the championship game was probably the biggest blowout. NC State had Tom Burleson had graduated. They still had David Thompson, and Carolina. Another thing Dean Smith did that people didn't really like all that well was the four corners, and it was almost unfair when Phil ran it because you couldn't catch him, and so they got ahead and ran the four corners and won 70-66.
Yeah, I mean you've seen so much, and you've experienced so much, and you can literally paint that picture, which is why you're such a great journalist and a great writer, because you could bring us right back into the moment, speaking about it as well. I mean, now that we're here and the ACC has their home in Charlotte and we're in Charlotte and we know we're going to be between Charlotte and Greensboro from now through 2029 at least, being inside of the Hive, being here at the Spectrum Center, what keeps you coming back? What are you most looking forward to? You said I'll make it to 50, so what keeps you coming back?
I like the games. They're not always compelling, but they can be. And I like seeing old friends. There are fewer of them, because the media corps is skewing younger. But I feel like I have an obligation to pass on the ACC's history to people like Josh Graham, who's a radio guy like yourself. And so I like coming and visiting with people, and then seeing the games.
And I think, Bob, you and I met with being at the ACC kickoff, and I'd ask a question, you'd ask a question, I'd ask a question, you'd ask you, and I remember when we were in Pinehurst, North Carolina, it was jokingly said, but also in a way seriously said. We were both sitting on the right side of the room, and I was sitting in front of you, and they said, the left mic will be the roving mic, the right mic you guys should just keep for yourselves. And, I know how I challenge myself and what I expect of myself, and I see what you do, and a lot of the times it's been just you and me being the consistent, wanting to talk to every school, have research and a question for everybody. So I just want to thank you that you've helped me feel unalone in this world, and I feel like we have a mutual respect that just happened from watching each other work and hearing what each other has to say. And without you opening a door when I kind of walked toward you and said, hey, I don't know a lot of people in the media that I can trust, but years ago I reached out a hand to shake your hand, and we talked, and you've been good to me. And I think, above everything else, I've appreciated our friendship.
I've appreciated our friendship as well, Dan. Pleasure being on your show.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to talking with you soon.
Absolutely.
We got a lot of games coming up. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We're live from the Spectrum Center at the Hive here, the home of the Charlotte Hornets and the home of your 2026 ACC tournament. And round 2 begins today at noon Eastern time, less than an hour away. I'll be carrying you all the way through. You could find articles for every game on WakeUpCallDT.com. And, of course, you could find my conversations with coaches and players all throughout this tournament, including today, and you can catch up on yesterday's. We'll be back after this fast break inside the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Stay with us.
All right, I'm not hungry, but
hey everybody, this is Rockney Roberts from Willow Rock Brewing Company. We are here in Cicero at the Willow Rock Pizza Pub.
And I'm Kevin Williams, also from Willow Rock Brewing Company. Happy to be here and happy to be partnering with CNS and Dan Tortora.
You want some place where you can feel comfortable and hopefully ingratiate yourself with the community. And Kevin, he grew up right down the road from here. I grew up in Brewerton, so not too far away. We know the area, we know the people, they're great, and we were just really excited to be able to come to the area.
Yeah, and having the opportunity to meet some of these coaches, some of the people in general already, and seeing the CNS colors kind of around, and already partnering on a smaller level with individual teams really made this make sense to us to really formalize kind of a partnership with the school and get this rolling.
Willow Rock to me has always been about high quality beverages, high quality experiences, and now high quality food at our pizza pub. That was something new for us when we came to Cicero. Right from the drop, we knew we were going to have a focus on the highest quality food to go with our high quality beer. At the Willow Rock Pizza Pub, you're getting high quality, hand cut, top notch ingredients. We're open for lunch. That's a really important thing for us, is to be able to get that person in here like, hey, you only got 30 minutes for lunch, but we're gonna have something for you that you can get quickly and available to everybody.
Yeah, we wanted something that was just a little bit outside the box, a little bit outside of comfort zone, but still something that you could rely on to be consistent and easy to look at and easy to be like, oh, I can see myself eating this. I can see myself wanting to have that more than once. Eating a whole pizza like our beef on weck pizza, I've never seen one anywhere. It's just a great ideas, great inspiration across the board. We're their spot to stop. We're their friendly neighborhood watering hole, as well as pizza place and place to stop for a restaurant. Not just beer drinkers here. We've got wines, we got cocktails, we got non-alcoholic stuff for the kids.
The location is more important today than it ever has been before, and we're lucky enough to be here in Cicero. The Willow Rock Pizza Pub is a place where you can bring your family. You can come in, you can grab a soda, you can relax. You can come after a game, before a game, your parents, your grandparents. Our goal is to make sure that everyone's comfortable here. We want students, we want athletes, we want your coaches. It's going to be a good time. So come here, enjoy the high quality food, high quality beverage that we're going to offer to everybody. And hey, go North Stars.
We're so happy to have the North Stars. We are very much a kid-friendly establishment. We have tons of space outside for everybody to be playing outside, as well as listening to live music, enjoying some pizza.
The Willow Rock Pizza Pub is open 6 days a week here in Cicero. That is Tuesday through Sunday. And our website is willowrockbrew.com, and our socials are at Willow Rock Brew. So find us on the net, find us in person. We'll see you soon.
For Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So Canine Camp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. Canine Camp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that Canine Camp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making Canine Camp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry-loving friend. Right, Lily? Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at is.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on in to the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. Canine Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. Canine Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to caninecampground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. Canine Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose Canine Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks comes to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, bringing to you the sports cards that you love, the trading cards that you love, keeping you close to the teams and players you love, as well as the games you love to play, from Disney Lorcana to Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, One Piece, and more. You'll find it all at 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, the home of GG Cards and Breaks, open to you Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Go be a big kid today. Big time shout out and thanks to Chick-fil-A in DeWitt on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. You will find them in an unmissable building, the giant brick building that is on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard, and of course the double drive-through that you'll be able to experience at Chick-fil-A in DeWitt. We appreciate y'all and welcome you all into Chick-fil-A in DeWitt with Megan Sorber and her team. You could find out more information by going to WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage and clicking on Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. New menu items have come to you along with everything else already offered at Chick-fil-A, and we look forward to seeing you on the corner of Bridge and Erie today. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Travel Studios, we are on site, on location, broadcasting live this week from the Spectrum Center, the Hive, and the home of the Charlotte Hornets, also the home of the T. Rowe Price 2026 ACC Men's Basketball Tournament. The tournament between now and 2029 will bounce back and forth between Charlotte and Greensboro, but stay in the state of North Carolina. In my 14 years of covering the ACC, I've been with them multiple times in Brooklyn, New York, as well as out in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., and been here in Charlotte, been at Greensboro, and now back here in Charlotte. It's always a great experience to be here at the ACC tournament, covering every single game and every single team that is a part of this. You can go to, and we implore you to go to, wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, our live internet streaming radio, also where you are going to find our conversations with coaches and players, and you can find them all individually up there right now. You will find everything from day one, the first round of the ACC tournament, and that is my Q&A with Pitt Panthers guard Barry Dunning Jr. following the win over Stanford in the first round. You'll also find my Q&A with Pitt Panthers men's basketball head coach Jeff Capel III on DeMarco Minor, who hit that shot that was able to be the difference in a 64-63 victory for the lowest seed 15 Pitt, defeating 10-seeded Stanford. And he also spoke on Moore and what Moore did and has done this season for Pitt. Then on to the Stanford Cardinal men's basketball head coach Kyle Smith following the first round of the 2026 ACC tournament, speaking on the strength of the entire conference and not understanding why some people do not see the strength of the ACC in men's basketball. And then you will also find my SMU Mustangs Q&As with guard Boopy Miller following his 25 points against Syracuse in a victory 86-69, and men's basketball head coach Andy Enfield from SMU speaking on Jaron Pierre Jr. beyond the arc, who had made back-to-back-to-back threes in the second half of the game against Syracuse to stave off any try and comeback for the Orange. And you'll also have my conversations with Syracuse guard Nate Kings and forward Tyler Betsy on leaving it all on the floor this season, and with Syracuse Orange men's basketball head coach at the time, Adrian Autry, reflecting on his 3 years and the Syracuse standard. He was let go this morning following that loss. Also on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com, my conversation with Virginia Tech men's basketball head coach Mike Young on the team's play despite the loss in overtime in the last game of the first round, and Wake Forest guard Miles Colvin speaking on his overall play in the overtime win over Virginia Tech. So that is all there and waiting for you in our coverage of day one of the ACC tournament. Day two here in the second round, as we are live from the Spectrum Center on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. The first game is happening in less than an hour, noon Eastern time tip-off on ESPN2. We'll see 15th-seeded Pitt. 15-seeded Pitt will face off against 7-seeded NC State. NC State was one of the top 9 seeds, so they automatically were put through the first round into the second round, did not have to play yesterday. NC State will play host to Pitt at noon Eastern time. Then at approximately 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN, SMU, the 11 seed that defeated Syracuse yesterday, will go up against the 6 seed, and that'll be the Louisville Cardinals. And then we will see after that Louisville game, we will jump right into more action for the ACC tournament, which will bring us into a nighttime piece here. And that nighttime piece is going to put us in a place at 7 p.m. Eastern time on ESPNU, where Florida State, the 8 seed, will take on 9-seeded California. And then we will see Wake Forest, who defeated Virginia Tech yesterday in overtime. The Demon Deacons, 13 seed, will take on the Tigers of Clemson, the 5 seed, at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN2, which means that you'll have basketball from the Spectrum Center, the Hive, and the home of the Charlotte Hornets in the ACC tournament for almost half the day, right around there from noon Eastern time to wrap up close to midnight, as we take a look at that 9:30 p.m. Eastern time game that will probably end a little bit after 11 p.m. So almost 12 hours of basketball here for the second round of the ACC men's basketball tournament. And, of course, Wake Up Call will carry you all the way through where sports meets life. We appreciate you being here in the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios. The final piece for today, the ingredients to success, proudly presented by Avicoli's on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York. And there at Liverpool, New York, you will see the fact that Avicoli's is open 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, and right down the road from Liverpool High School, where we have our monthly broadcast with Liverpool student athletes, coaches, and administration. Today is the outside validation being our topic here, and outside validation being the topic of the ingredients to success. And a lot of these teams understand that you don't need it. And I think with this tournament, with anything that I've seen in sports, the outside validation is something that doesn't really provide much of anything to you. And I think coaches and players have put it perfectly when they describe the fact that who cares about outside noise, positive or negative, when none of those people that are speaking can affect the outcome of the game. And that outside validation was not needed by the Pitt Panthers, nor is it needed by the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. And now as Syracuse steps forward, the outside validation, some people liked what was going on in the last few years, some people didn't, but ultimately, you know, this team fought hard. You could see my interviews with the Syracuse Orange on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, as well as on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, as I spoke with Nate Kings as well as Tyler Betsy beyond my Q&As in the press conference. Spoke with them one-on-one after that, as well as having the opportunity to speak with guard Nathan George and to speak with forward Donnie Freeman about this season, the brotherhood, the connection, the things that haven't been necessarily seen by those that are on the outside looking in. And, you know, Syracuse had a lot of talent this year, arguably the best talent that they've had over the last few seasons, definitely in Adrian Autry's era when it came to depth and it came to talent at every position. But ultimately, it didn't come through. At the end of games, Syracuse didn't close out, or else the season would be vastly different. And Adrian Autry not being the head coach as of this morning, I had the opportunity to share that with you, and we'll share it once again, what Syracuse said in their release that they have parted ways with Adrian Autry. Quote, Adrian first came to Syracuse as a student athlete in 1990, and this program has been a constant in his life ever since as a player, assistant coach, associate head coach, and ultimately as head coach. His dedication to our student athletes on and off the court never wavered throughout his time here, and we are grateful for his service and commitment to Orange basketball. That was all said in a quote from John Wildhack in Syracuse's release. Now, John Wildhack has announced that he is going to step away from the position as director of athletics at Syracuse as of July 1st, 2026, but he still gets to make decisions up until then, one of those decisions being parting ways with Adrian Autry. Adrian said, it has been an honor to coach at my alma mater. I want to thank Chancellor Syverud, John Wildhack, Jim Boeheim, my team, and my staff for their support, end quote. A lot of change happening on the Hill for Syracuse University as they have a new chancellor with Kent Syverud stepping away. They will have a new director of athletics with John Wildhack stepping away. And, of course, after 47 seasons of Jim Boeheim, they had a new head coach over the last 3 years with Adrian Autry, and they're going to have another new men's basketball head coach coming up here before the start of the 26-27 season. Wildhack went on to say, quote, we are going to move quickly and with purpose. This is one of the most storied programs in college basketball, and we intend to hire a proven winner who will build on that legacy. We are looking for a coach who can recruit at the highest level, develop players, and compete for championships, conference and national. Syracuse fans deserve nothing less, and that is exactly what we are going to deliver. And quote, Syracuse has spent many years away from the NCAA tournament. They've spent more than half a decade away from a place that they typically go to. Syracuse known for being a 25 type win team, a 20 to 25 win team, a Sweet 16 team. Many years of covering Syracuse basketball, I listened to fans that were unhappy when they went to the Sweet 16 and lost, when they only won 20 games or 21 games or 22 games. And so the standard was set so high that the fans got used to having 20-plus wins and a trip to at least the Sweet 16, winning a game or two, typically a couple games in the NCAA tournament. That hasn't happened in recent history, and Syracuse is a far cry from what they used to be when it comes to men's basketball, and they will look to find their way back. They've only had two coaches in the last 5 decades, Jim Boeheim for 47 years and Adrian Autry for the other 3 inside of these last 50 years of Syracuse Orange men's basketball. But once again, the topic for the ingredients to success, probably presented by Avicoli, is that outside validation. Listen, whether people give you the love or they don't give you the love, you have to do the work and you have to get after it. Sometimes people are honored when they haven't done the work, and sometimes people are dishonored when they've done everything they could. And if anybody knows anything about anything, it's the fact that we only see, when it comes to the outside looking in, you only see the tip of the iceberg. You never see the massive amount of that iceberg that is underneath the water. And so for those that liked Adrian, didn't like Adrian, you don't know what type of coach he was, the type of work that he did. And I can say this, up until the final game, final moments of this 25-26 season, his players continued to give him support, continued to thank him for taking a chance on them. Donnie Freeman speaking with me about thanking Adrian for being with him through his injury. J.J. Starling has had time with that. And obviously Nate King's talking with him where he might have another season of eligibility, and if he gets it, where's he going to spend it? Thanking Adrian and as well as Nathan George, and Tyler Betsy. I mean, this is a team that has changed many times. Boeheim's last couple seasons saw the likes of 3 to 5 players leaving. We know that Kadari Richmond left during that COVID time and went on to Seton Hall and St. John's. And then with Quadir Copeland leaving and eventually getting to NC State, and Malik Brown leaving and going to Duke, those are 2 players Syracuse couldn't afford to lose. And you look at what Malik Brown has meant to Duke, you look at what Q has meant to NC State, they have helped those programs to rise to another level. And what they could have done at Syracuse is left to be dreamt about. But, when it comes to, again, that outside validation, I think it's important to remember that no matter what anybody says about you or does toward you, you're the keeper of your past, present, and future, and you're the only one that can make a decision on what you're going to do. So I might be different than a lot of people out there, but I'm going to wish Adrian Autry the best. I've known him as a friend for over a decade. I know that this is not how he wanted things to go, and I know it's been really frustrating for everybody connected with the Syracuse program, but I in no way, shape, or form are going to disparage or push down any human being, man, woman, or child, because I wouldn't want somebody to do it to me. So I wish Adrian all the best, and I hope that Syracuse makes a decision that's going to help them for a lifetime, and that whoever comes into that building to interview, that they have the best of the best and the brightest as they look forward to what is to come. But it's not about the outside voices. It's not about the hate that comes or the love that comes. I think a player would tell you that if they buy into the love, they buy into that hype and they kind of lose themselves. And if they buy into the hate, they kind of hate themselves. So I would say to keep that outside noise outside, because by definition, that's where it belongs. And for the sake of Syracuse, I hope the best for my hometown and what they do moving forward. We appreciate you being here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life at the ACC tournament inside of the Spectrum Center, as we broadcast live from the broadcast room here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from Charlotte, North Carolina, the Hive, a.k.a. the home of the Charlotte Hornets. And we bid you adieu for this broadcast of Wake Up Call. I want to thank Paul Brazeau for being a part of the show, Senior Vice President for ACC Men's Basketball. And, of course, many thanks to Jackie Carson, the Senior Vice President for ACC Women's Basketball, who joined me within the last couple weeks ahead of the ACC Women's Tournament that made history, going to Duluth, Georgia in that Atlanta region and branching out the ACC footprint when it comes to women's basketball. And many thanks to Bob Holliday of WRAL Sports, who joined me on the broadcast today, who has spent 47 years covering the ACC men's basketball tournament, this being year 47. He said he'll make it to 50, and I look forward to him doing that. I also look forward to everything coming up in the second round for interviews as well as articles. You'll find it all on wakeupcalldt.com, and of course you'll find it on youtube.com and facebook.com, both /wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Of course, you can find us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as on Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, Podchaser.com, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Many thanks to all of our partners in Central and Upstate New York, and to Great Lakes, Honda City, to Carvel, DeWitt, Mon Paz, the snack capital of the world, as well as a very special thank you to the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Pizza Man, as well as Game Point Sports Complex, Brian's Landing, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, Myers Creek, Chick-fil-A in DeWitt, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, Willow Rock Pizza Pub, and the Willow Rock Brewing Company. And thanks to Binghamton University for being our exclusive multimedia marketing partner. You can find the Bearcats every Tuesday during Bearcat time at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and we look forward to you finding them on youtube.com /wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell. Find our Binghamton playlist. The Bearcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, and underneath the exclusive partners tab for more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. For now, from the Spectrum Center, from the Hive, Wake Up Call bids you adieu inside of the Travel Great Lakes Honda City Studios, and as always, God bless, no stress, do your best.